Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, fiqh investigators. Now that we've made a tool that we will hopefully use to help Daddy Nike, we're going to have a bit of a practice run and help somebody else that's in a bit of a pickle. Before we meet him, we're going to have to do some travelling because he's not exactly in the same place as us. Actually, he's not even in the same time frame as us. Yes, you've guessed it. We're going to have to travel to the future first. So I want you all to close your eyes. Ready? Let's go. You can open them now. Investigators, we're in the year 2999 and the world is a very, very different place to the one that we know and are used to. Almost everything seems to be different. The environment, the landscape, the people and their lifestyle. One of the most marked changes is the technology and how advanced it's become. The advancement of technology has meant old familiar things have disappeared. Paper, for example, is gone, which means books are no more. Everyone uses a screen for everything, and no one finds reading interesting anymore. I mean, when they can play a game or watch their favourite program, why on earth would they be bothered to read? Most people spend the majority of their time in front of a screen, and this has caused major changes in the way society is run. For example, very few seem to be concerned about or even notice the environment around them, and this has meant that nobody has cared for our beloved animals and that they've become extinct. Yes, investigators, sadly our beloved elephant has gone. Due to their reliance on technology, people have become less competent. That in our time takes one person to complete it, now requires 5 people to carry it out. So, we arrived on the eve of the year 3000, fiqh investigators. And researchers are predicting that upon the arrival of the new year, a bug, which they have named the Y3K bug, will hit every device on the planet and render them completely useless. The year 3000 arrives, and just as predicted, the Y3K bug attacks. Every single device on the planet stops working. Now we're going to meet Malik. And Malik is a Mueddhin. And he wakes up on this first morning of the year 3000 to find that every single device in his house has been hit by the Y3K bug. And he realizes that the Fajr Adhan wasn't called, so he quickly prays and rushes off to the masjid to see what on earth is going on. When he arrives at the masjid, he meets the manager, who tells him that the devices that they use to determine salah times are not working. He reassures Malik straight away that they have found a solution. They sent someone into the basement of the masjid and have retrieved photos from their archives of the sky at the beginning of each salah. He then hands over 2 photos to Malik and tells him that these are his designated salah for today and tomorrow. Now, if you remember, I mentioned earlier that it takes 5 people now to do one person's job. So Malik calls the adhan only once a day. Okay? So the managers told Malik that he needs to use the photos to determine when the salah time starts. So Malik needs to observe the sky and then compare it to his photo, and when it looks similar to his photo, he needs to call the adhan. Shall we have a look at the photo of Malik's designated salah for today? So this is the photo for today. Do you notice how high the sun is in the sky? Can you get your tools out and try and figure out which salah Malik needs to call the adhan for? You can pause the video here and have a go. Okay, fiqh investigators, I'm hoping you had a go to try and figure out which adhan Malik needs to call today. What were your answers? Let's find out the correct answer. The correct answer is Salatul Dhuhr. So Malik needs to call Salatul Dhuhr today. And if we remember, the time for Dhuhr Salah is when the sun passes the meridian until a man's shadow is of the same length as his height. Okay, so the time of Dhuhr is just as the sun passes the highest point of the sky. So it's not the highest point of in the sky, the zawal, but just as the sun moves away, that's when Dhuhr time starts. So just like as you can see in the picture, the sun's just moved away from the highest point. Okay, shall we look at tomorrow's picture? Okay, so this is the picture that Malik's been given for tomorrow. Let's pause the video here and try and figure out which salah is. As you can notice, the sky is black and there's a bit of white. So why don't we use our tools to try and figure out which salah is? Okay, fiqh investigators, hopefully you've had a go. Let's see what the answer is. Yes, the answer is Salatul Fajr. Now, as we can see from the photo, there's the black sky and there's a slight white streak. Just as we discussed before, Fajr time starts when the white thread separates from the darkness, just as we can see in this photo. As Dhuhr time is nearing, Malik stays in the minaret of the masjid, observing the sky until it just past Zawal. He then calls the adhan for Dhuhr and prays with the Jama'ah. All of the morning's excitement has met Malik, who tires easily like the rest of his generation, is exhausted. So he decides to go home for a nap. Malik falls into a deep sleep. He then wakes up in a panic and worries that he's missed the Asr adhan and the Jama'ah at the masjid. He rushes over to his window to have a look at the sky. It looks like he needs our help again, investigators. Has he missed the Jama'ah for Asr? Let's have a closer look at the view from his window. You can pause here to study the view and determine whether you think he has missed the Jama'ah. Try to give a reason for your conclusion. So let's have a closer look at the view together, shall we? Now, looking at it, we can see that the sun has started to change colour and it's becoming a deeper yellow. As we learnt before, this indicates that the time of necessity for Asr has entered. And so we can definitely say that Malik has missed the Jama'ah for the masjid, because the masjid would have prayed earlier during the time of preference rather than delaying Asr until later on. Upon discovering that he's missed the Jama'ah at the masjid, Malik does wudu and prays at home. When he has finished, there is still a bit of time before Maghrib. So, feeling an uncommon burst of energy and having no technology to while away or waste his time with, he decides to head outside for a stroll by the valley nearby. It's been a while since Malik has been amongst nature, and he ends up enjoying himself so much that he completely loses track of time, and before he knows it, the sound of the Mueddin's voice fills the air with the adhan. Let's take a quiet moment here to enjoy the adhan and observe the changes in the sky at Maghrib time. So, just to remind ourselves, Salatul Maghrib starts after the sun has completely set and it finishes when twilight disappears. Twilight is the redness in the sky that remains for a period of time after the sun has set. So, Maghrib starts after the sun has set and it lasts until twilight disappears. 2 weeks pass, and despite the world's best working at solving the problems caused by the Y3K bug, its effects remain, and Mueddhin Malik has observed significant changes in his life and is surprisingly enjoying his new lifestyle. He's become quite apt at observation and has no problems anymore of figuring out which salah time has started. He has also taken up a new hobby of hiking and has discovered he has quite the talent for painting nature. He sleeps better, feels more energized, has connected with so many new people, and is generally a happier person overall. One morning after breakfast, Malik hears a knock on his door. He opens it to find it is Anas, his colleague that has been away for Umrah for the past 2 weeks. Malik is so pleased to see him, and they excitedly start discussing Anas's trip. Anas tells Malik that it's been a very different experience this time, and this is because their flying carriages have all been affected by the Y3K bug. So they had to complete their tawaf by foot. It felt really strange. Anas then tells Malik that he's returning to work today and he needs his help. Their manager, Jamil, left an envelope for Anas with his allocated salah times for the next 2 days. And Anas has no idea which ones they are. Should we help him, Fiqh investigators? This is the first photo that Anas has received. So this is his first assignment. Why don't you pause the video here and have a think about which salah it is. Now we've had time to think, let's find out what the answer is. Okay, so Anas's first assignment is Salatul Fajr. As you can see that the white thread has appeared amongst the darkness, and this is an indication that it's Salatul Fajr. Okay, let's have a look at the next photo. So this is Anas's second assignment. Why don't you pause the video again and have a think about which salah you think it might be. Okay, now we've had a think, we can find out which salah it is. It is Salatul Isha. Okay, and we know that because the sky is completely black here. And we know that Salatul Isha starts after the redness of the sky disappears, and the redness of the sky is twilight, and it lasts until the middle of the night. And the waqt of necessity for Salatul Isha is from the middle of the night until Fajr. Now what we mean by the middle of the night here is the time between Maghrib and Fajr, and the middle of the night will be the midpoint between these two times. It won't be midnight as we know it, 12 o'clock. It's the calculation of the midpoint between Maghrib and Fajr. It takes another 2 months of the best software engineers, computer scientists and IT professionals working round the clock to tackle and solve the chaos left behind by the Y3K bug. 2 months without their technological devices at their disposal has forced society to change in ways they never imagined that they could. It's a society that's completely unrecognizable from the one that existed 2.5 months prior. The once desolate libraries have dusted their shelves and are full of eager readers soaking up the knowledge that is offered between the pages of the previously neglected books. The habit of spending time indoors has been swapped for exploring the outdoors, and families have seen the bonds between them strengthen to the point where they actually enjoy spending time together. The absence of the almost constant presence of a screen has opened up people's eyes and hearts to the needs of the community around them. With social interactions replacing screen time, the previously self-centered society has seen the return of empathy and compassion. People are noticing the problems of the needy around them and are stepping up to help and serve the community. Their elderly and sick are finally getting the help that they need. Wildlife conservation societies have been set up, and this has meant that our beloved panda has been saved from the brink of extinction. Alhamdulillah. The joys and possibilities that society has witnessed with this alternative lifestyle has made them vow never to return to their old ways, and they don't. Don't get me wrong, they don't vanquish technology. However, the use of it is exercised with self-control. Their resolution and determination upon this decision allows them to prosper and grow and build a happier world, not only for themselves, but for the coming generations that follow.